Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're on part 2 of our Bringing Order to the Chaos Laundry Room series. Today we're going to be working on the painting. You got to cut in. You would consider cutting in anything that you don't want to use a roller on, so anything that requires precision. So like we cut in around the cabinets, we cut in around the trim, around light fixtures, things like that. So we're going to do the cutting in painting, then we'll roll the rest of the walls. But I've actually got the washer and dryer pulled away from the walls. So one, we can paint back behind them, and then while I've got them disconnected and pulled out, I'm going to go ahead and mount the shelving brackets. That way I don't have to work around the washer and the dryer later on. Now I'm not going to actually put the shelves on the brackets right now because we are going to be doing a whole video covering the way that we're refinishing the cabinets. We actually found a really cool brand that specializes in cabinet refinishing. So that'll be part 3. So I'm just going to get the brackets mounted, get the washer and dryer pushed back in and hooked back up so we can use it because, you know, kids and farming requires laundry. Stuff gets dirty quick. And then I've also got to pull that refrigerator out of that cubby hole. I've got to cut in around it, around the trim at the top and the base around the bottom. And then we've got to roll those walls, but I can't pull the fridge out while I've got the washer and dryer out. So one thing about doing painting and remodeling and this kind of work while you're still living in the house is that you've got to do a logistical musical chairs where things bounce around, pull things out, push them back. And that's okay. That's just part of it. So anyways, we're going to get in there, get as much painted as we can, get the shelving brackets mounted, then we'll push the washer and dryer back, and then we'll paint around the fridge. And that might be where we end. It kind of just depends on how much footage we get, but that might be a good stopping point. We had a ton to get done on the farm today. There was a lot of moving parts, and I went ahead and prioritized that while I had light outside. So I'm starting this video as it's starting to get dark, but it's still only like 4 something in the afternoon. So it's not like it's super late. It just looks like that. I've run out to the tool trailer to grab my 7-foot level and a container of screws. I need some 3-inch screws to really give those shelving some sturdiness into those studs. And I wanted to do that before it got dark. I would show you my tool trailer right now, but it is a freaking mess in there. So maybe in the future we'll do like a tool trailer tour or something. I don't know about that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not making any promises on that. But if I ever do a tour, it's going to have to get cleaned up for sure. It's just not been something I've had time to do yet, so we'll get there. All right, let's get back inside and get some of this work done. Okay, so we've got everything painted except for the cubby hole for the refrigerator, because I don't have any more room in the middle of the laundry room to pull it out. So I'm going to get the brackets mounted on this wall for the shelving. Then we'll put the washer and dryer back. Then we'll pull the refrigerator out and I'll paint back behind there. And then we're gonna call it a day. So I'm using these giant 16-inch by 18-inch triangle brackets, and I really like these. They're very sturdy, especially because I mount them into studs. They hold a considerable amount of weight. I think for each shelf I'm gonna do 3 brackets. I already know when I took the cabinets down that there's a stud in this corner, so that's going to be 1. I'll mount this straight up in the corner. But then I also know right at the edge of where this panel, which that panel is there to access the plumbing, but I could see behind the wall. I know that there's a stud that runs right here, so that's where the middle one's going to be. The tricky part was the 3rd one on the end down by the cabinets. So what I had to consider was the spacing of the washer and dryer and being able to slide back into that hole. With this bracket being there, if it's placed in a spot that's directly behind the washer and dryer, then it won't work. Because initially I really wanted to mount the shelf to sit just above the washer and dryer so that there was no space to slide stuff underneath the shelf, but on top of the washer and dryer. I have since figured out that that's not going to work because to hit studs on all 3 of these locations, I would not get the right spacing. The dryer would be fine, but where I ran into problems was where the washer was going to go. I'm going to flip the camera around. All right, so I've got a stud right here just to the left of this receptacle. All right, so from this stud to this one, there's not enough space to fit the washer in. So I was going to have to bump over to a stud that's running right here at the edge of this countertop, which is going to require me to have to mount the bracket sitting on top of the countertop, which is going to raise up the overall shelf. So since the spacing didn't work out, I'm going to have to raise the shelf up. I think initially I was going to mount it at about 52.5. Now it's going to be at like 58. But I still think it'll work out okay. Maybe I can store something flat underneath the shelf in the washer and dryer. I don't know. I'll figure it out once we get it done, but I do know that to get all 3 shelving brackets on studs, this is what I'm going to have to do. So we're just going to roll with it. So the first shelf will mount at like 58 inches, and then I'm going to figure out my spacing. I don't know exactly how far. I may see if I can line up the next shelf with the top of the cabinets. I think aesthetically that might look the best. But if I don't like the amount of shelf spacing between the 2, then I might change that. I might come down some or I might go up a little higher. But I think just kind of looking at it, I actually think that that might actually work out pretty good with the spacing between the 2 shelves. There you go. So that spacing worked out almost perfect. There's the middle one right there in between. Still got a little bit of space on each side. Didn't have to like squeeze it in or anything. Still got this larger gap on the right side so I can get to the switch. So I'm not going to put the shelves in until, at least on this side, until after we get the cabinets painted. So now I'm just going to pull the refrigerator up and out. Alright guys, I'm cleaning up the paint. I wanted to give you guys a tip. So I usually use Purdy painting equipment. So brushes, rollers, extension handles, all of it. I have found that it is superior. One of the things that is a definite go-to, and I have multiple in my painting equipment, are these Purdy brush and roller cleaners. So I want to give a couple of examples of how you use this and how it saves paint and can also increase the longevity of your brushes by getting them really clean when you're done using them. So I've got the roller that I was using, and I've got it over the cup because I'm going to pour this back into the paint can. I want you to see how much of this paint this is scraping off. You see all that paint coming off? Normally you would just end up washing this out. And actually this, I scraped this about 3 times already before I thought about showing you guys. So it is, essentially it's got this bristle side or teeth side, and then it's got this like crescent side. The crescent side is specifically for rollers, and it essentially will scrape all that extra paint that's there. Okay. Alright, well there's actually one thing I forgot that we will do on the last video. When we come in to put these shelves on these brackets, I actually forgot that I've got to mount the shelf above the fridge. I haven't fully figured out what I'm going to do with that yet because I need to locate where the studs are on that wall. Like I haven't decided if the shelf's going to sit on top of the fridge or just above it. So I've got a little bit of figuring to do on that one, but now that wall's wet and it's drying. So we can't do it this time, so we'll add that to the video at the end. So anyways guys, that's going to wrap this one up. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you again, and we will catch you guys on the next one.